I'm James Holder. Welcome to Full Court Football 24. Quite privileged to be joined by former Millwall, Forest Green, Stevenage Borough, Southend United, Hull City, Crystal Palace, Stoke City, Burnley, Preston North End, and Charlton Athletic star Leon Cort. What's happening, Lee? How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing, James? I'm good. Just getting through this tough period. This Corona lockdown. It's been difficult.
I can empathise with that. It's been testing times for everyone. I hope you and your family have been all right and everything's good for yourselves.
Yeah, can't complain. Everyone's been healthy. I've had no unfortunate stories, so I'm just grateful that everyone's got through it okay.
Glad to hear that. I want to look back on your footballing journey today, a little bit about your life as well. Quite a fascinating journey. So many teams you've played for, good career experience. I know you're born in South London, so what part of South London would you have been raised in?
Elephant Castle. Yeah, I've lived there for years, Elephant Castle. Grew up there all my life until I moved out around, moved out around 16. Not much further away, just the Walworth Road near Campbell. So it wasn't that much further away. But just always playing football around there, playing against other areas. You know, you go to other areas, play other teams. No, it was a brilliant childhood. I'd never change it for anything.
Tell me a little bit about your family group, because I know your brother's a professional footballer as well. So is that your only sibling you would have had growing up?
Say that again, is that my only?
Sorry, I'll ask you that question again. Yeah. I know your brother's a professional footballer as well. So what would life been like in your household growing up as a child?
You know what? It was quite relaxed. It was quite calm. Like none of us, we weren't really a loud family or anything. We were just quiet, went about our business. Our mum, just took us to our games, etc. It was quite a quiet upbringing. We weren't loud. We just got on with our business quiet. It was, I think that's why we were more successful, actually, because we kept away from all the crap outside of it. All we wanted to do was play ball. So that's why we were pretty successful.
What's your first experiences of playing competitive football as a youngster? Sort of, whether that be for your local side or for your school team, how did that first experience play out for you?
Well, to be fair, it happened really young, at like 9, because I played a local team, a Sunday team called Ziggy's, right? And we used to win everything, but we had a manager who pretty hardcore aggressive with us. Like the way he would shout at kids. When I look back, it probably was it weren't normal, put it that way. And you know what? To be honest, that kind of made you into a man very early. Because when you got a big grown man shouting at you and stuff, when you make mistakes on the pitch, you don't really see that now. I'm not saying it's the right way to go, because I don't think it is with young kids, but it made you grow up. It made you, grow some very early, for the game, and it kind of put me in good stead early for my career.
Would you have been playing sort of for your district borough team and for your school team, for the inner London teams? How did that all play out for you?
Well, do you know what the funny thing is, James? I started my career in goal. I was always in goal. I never, ever was on pitch, and it was only I played from a London district in goal, but my school team I was on pitch. So it was kind of crazy. But I was at Wimbledon. Wimbledon wanted to sign me on schoolboy forms in goal because they thought I could, really push on to make it pro. But I just got so bored. I just didn't like it. I weren't entertained. I got really bored. They were saying, look, stick at it. We feel that you can have a big future in goal. There's not many kids like you, your height, your age, your mental state, the way you are, you're focused. Stick at it. Nah, didn't want it. I didn't want to. I just found it so boring. Didn't want to do it. So I left goal and tried to go on pitch.
That's mad. How did you make that switch from goalkeeper to centre half?
Because I was doing well at school. I was playing centre half at school, but everywhere else I was playing in goal, and I was always getting goals in school teams. And people are saying, you could really do well on pitch. So I just thought, you know what, I find it more enjoyable on pitch. I'm going on pitch, and I just sacked the goalkeeper off. People were disappointed, really disappointed, but I didn't care. I just wanted to enjoy my football, and that's when it really kicked off. Because I went to Dulwich Hamlet after that. No, so I played for a team in Brixton called Accra. And we used to play against other teams, used to just mash them up, like go to different areas, destroy them, with me and my mates, close mate Damien Stewart, another guy who's at Fulham as well. So no, we done really well. But then we went to Dulwich Hamlet, and that's when it really, really took off.
Talk to me about that period in your life at Dulwich Hamlet. Are you then fully focused on football, or have you got a job outside of football at that age? How does that all sort of playing out for you?
Yeah, we were just so busy back then. I was working for the Sun newspaper, like, just, doing the rounds and working in the factory there. I was 17, 18. And then that night we'd have to go to a game at Dulwich. It was me, Marlon King, all those guys were there. But we were doing so well. But I never saw it as another stepping stone to play pro. I was just seeing it as, I'm not going to make it pro now. My time's gone. I've missed all the academy stuff. Let me just enjoy my football at Dulwich and go to college at the same time.
Do you think that mentality and that mindset took a lot of pressure of yourself and enabled you to play your football to your best ability? Just that, not worrying about the future and this and academies and teams and stuff.
Kind of, because we always knew scouts were there, because Dulwich always had a reputation of bringing through decent players, brought through Marlon King and some other players as well. So we always knew scouts were there, but nothing was happening. We played the full season and never heard anything. So we just carried on playing our games. But what we were doing, we were destroying teams all the time. Good players, we were destroying them. And that's when I was playing one day and the manager came up to me and said, Millwall will be watching you. Would you like to go down for a 2-week trial? And I was like, a 2-week trial, it can't hurt me. It's only a trial. It's only 2 weeks. It's not going to interrupt my studies or anything like that. So I thought, you know what? I'll go down there. I'll go down for a trial, see how it goes. But before I went for the trial, I was still training at Dulwich. And we trained over a pitch at the back. It was quite bobbly. It was summer. It wasn't really looked after. So then I was running and twisted my ankle the other way. It was facing the other way. It's literally facing the other way. I thought I was done. And I was meant to go to Dulwich. No, I was meant to go to Millwall a few weeks' time. So I thought that's my dream over. So I called the Millwall scout and I said to him, look, I've got a bad injury. I can't. He goes, no, it's fine. Just try and get over it and come back when you're ready. So I thought, okay, all right, that's great. That's great news. They're not going to just, toss me off. They're going to wait for me. Mm-hmm. But then my injury wasn't getting better. My ankle was like a balloon. I went to King's College Hospital. They didn't do the right thing. They just put ice in it and it was busted up. It was really busted up inside. But it must have been 3 months later. It's 3 months later I went back to Millwall and said, okay, I can train. But every time I was training, I was in excruciating pain. But I wanted to get that contract. So every time I'd go home, I'd train, I'd go home, and my ankle would be like a balloon. I couldn't show my ankle in public, not to the physio or anyone, because I knew as soon as I show my ankle, they're not gonna sign me. Yeah.
That must have been intense to keep that to yourself and not to blow your chance because of injury. How did your body handle that pressure and that constant strain?
I don't know. You know what? It was the will to make it, because I knew at my age that was my one chance. And the doctors told me when I first done it, they said that you won't play football at any level again after this because it hasn't been treated properly since you've done it. It's constantly fat. I mean, it's fat now. It's fat now because it wasn't looked after when it first happened. So when I went to Millwall, I was getting through on adrenaline. That's all. Because it was tough. Because you have to remember, it was the 90s. It was like 1998, 1999. And in that period of football, it was dog eat dog. Either you're good enough or you're out. Basically, you're not getting no arms put around your shoulder in those days. Because the pros there, they're brutal. They will just hammer you. And you got to remember is that I've come from a team where I'm not getting coached at Dulwich properly. So I'm going into a professional environment where you're training with people that got all the experience, know where to stand, know the knee and everything. I've gone there and I'm trying to impress, running all over the place, running out of position. And then you got these senior players like hammering me, this left, right, and centre. Because I'm a novice. I don't know anything because I wasn't coached. So I had to deal with that side of things. I had to deal with the injury, and I had to deal with the youth team manager who hated me. He didn't want me there. He hated me. So it was 3 things I had to deal with at the time.
Who was your youth team manager at Millwall?
It was Mick Flanagan. Mick Flanagan, because when I first went there, I'd done the 2-week trial, and they said, all right, we want to sign you for 6 months. See how you do after that. So then that was great because Billy Bonds was the manager. But Billy Bonds really liked me. And he was the top guy, he was the gaffer. But Mick Flanagan didn't want to sign me. He didn't want to sign me because he wanted Mark Phillips and Joe Dolan to be his 2 partners. You know, I know Mark Phillips really well. You done an interview the other day.
Right, I did, yeah.
And yeah, he's the top guy. He was slightly younger than me. But yeah, so it was Mick Flanagan who was the manager, and he used to make my life a living hell. He just used to hammer me every day, tried to belittle me, tried to make me break, but it weren't happening. You know, I made the sterner stuff than that. That was never going to happen. Because once I knew Billy Bonds wanted me there, I always felt that I could make it.
Are there any examples you could tell us about, or any situations that you felt that sort of dug you out more than the other players, or situation where you felt you were getting picked on more than other youth team players?
Yeah, he went overboard with a lot of things. He was just slight errors on the pitch. Like you try and play a ball down the channel and out for a throw. He would just go absolutely mental on the side at me in front of all the parents. You know, sometimes my mum would come to the game. It was embarrassing because the small errors that I was doing, he was just going because he didn't want me there. You know, and I remember one time the chief scout, Mark Beard actually had to have a word with him. Say, you need to calm down a bit with Leon because it's noticeable. And I remember one time, I was in the toilet. It's crazy. And the chief scout was talking to Mick Beard in the toilet, but they didn't know I was in there. And I heard him say, you know, Mick Flanagan said, my ideal partnership would be Mark Phillips and Joe Dolan. I don't want Leon here. Remember, I'm a young lad, come from Dulwich. So every time I hear this stuff, my confidence is going lower and lower and lower because I'm in a professional environment. My brother's at Newcastle United, just got bought for 7 million. I'm living in his shadow. Let's be honest, I'm living in his shadow because I'm a nobody, you know, and the people are thinking he's only here and getting a chance because he's Carl Cort's brother. So I'm thinking like, boy, this is tough. And I was thinking, I used to go home. My mum used to pick me up constantly. She used to pick me up constantly because I didn't enjoy it. And what happened was the players up on how the manager was treating me. So they tried to rip me on a lot of things. Oh, what are you doing at the end of the season, Leon? Because you're obviously going to get released. Yeah, things like that. Things like that is crazy. The stuff I had to do, mad. But yeah, so there's so anyway, after that 6 months, they said we want to give you a 2-year deal, and that was unbelievable because my ankle was a mess. But then, as soon as they said we give you a 2-year deal, as soon as I signed that contract, I just broke down, mate. My leg was done. So I said I need an operation. So as soon as I signed the contract, they couldn't get out of it. So I got the operation done, and I was out for 5 months after that. And that's when I got the operation and it helped.
Wow.
Yeah.
You must have done brilliantly to secure a contract. Bearing in mind, you're not loved, you're not first choice by the youth team manager. You're carrying this horrific injury. You must have played pretty damn well to get a contract, mate, to say the least. Yeah,
I was playing with Mark Phillips sometimes. I was playing with Joe Dolan sometimes at the back. And we done okay. We done really well. But I was just going through, the pain barrier was ridiculous. It was crazy. I don't know how I look back and I realised that I'm talking pain every training session, pain every single game. It was tough. And I wouldn't want anyone to go through that because I possibly could have damaged my body doing that in the long run as I get older. But it seems to be okay at the minute. So I'm lucky.
After that 4-month period out and having the operation, I'm guessing the operation was a success. How long would it be till you're then back in training, in with the rest of the team and getting amongst things? Yeah,
well, funny that you say it was a success. I went to the first surgeon and he looked at it and said, you're done. You can't play. You can never play. I have to inform Millwall and tell them you're done. So I said, I'm done. He goes, yeah, you're done. You're done. You won't last another 2 months with this. So he goes, I'll try an operation and see what happens. So I said, okay, try. He went inside and cut bone out, which was the worst thing he could have done. So then that healed up, and I was still running. You know, I tried to get back and play games. So we must have played a game against West Ham, and I was running, and the youth team manager started saying, "Cort, you're limping, like." And you see the whole place just like look at me like as I'm running. I was like, "No, I'm not limping," but I was. So then I went inside to the physio and said, "Look, I need to see this ankle again." So we went for a second opinion, and the guy said, "What the first surgeon done was the worst thing he could have done. All you needed, look." He showed me on the scan. He said, "Look, you got a bit of floating bone at the back, which is stopping your movement. Let me take this out, and I guarantee you'll feel $1 million later." He took that out, and that was it. That's what it was. The floating bone was causing inflammation. It was causing I couldn't even bend my ankle properly when I was running. It was like bending a little bit because of the floating bone was stopping it. They took that out, and I had full movement again, and I was just back sprinting.
Then after you've had the second operation, did you feel like you were going to start breaking into the first team at Millwall?
Do you know what? When I look back, I was never going to get a chance properly in the first team there at the time, because Keith Stevens, Billy Bonds got the sack. Keith Stevens and Alan McCleary came in, and they had the likes of Stuart Neville, Scott Fitzgerald, all these senior pros that have been there, done that. You know, I was still raw. I needed experience. So I knew that I had to get out and get games and get experience, because, like I said, I missed the whole youth team period where I wasn't being coached. I wasn't being coached zonally, positions to be in. All I had on my side was strength, pace, aggressiveness, and I used to just bully people to get through. You know, I mean, I knew I wasn't like the sort of person to ping ball 60 yards like Rio Ferdinand. I wasn't that kind of player. I was like an old school, solid centre back where you ain't getting past me kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So that's what I got through on. And Millwall loved that, because their heritage, what they're like, they knew that I was that kind of centre back. So I had to go out and get games. And that's when the whole... No, actually, I stayed for a bit, because I didn't go out first off. I stayed and just kept training. But then Keith Stevens and Alan McCleary got the sack. And that's when, what's his name, Mark McGee came in. And bloody Mark McGee, mate, I'm telling you, like, everyone would tell you a story about Mark McGee. That he just told pure lies, just so many lies. No, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, you're my plans. Like I said to him, like, if I'm not, that's fine, I don't mind, but I can't keep sitting here. He goes, all right, go out on loan, go to Forest Green, get some games. So I done that. I went out on loan to Forest Green, got some games, done really well. And it makes a difference to any young player going out on loan, because you're playing for something. When you're just playing in the reserves, there's nothing to... You perform, but there's nothing to play for. You're playing against people that got mortgages and rent to pay. Do you know what I mean? They need to perform to survive. So you're playing in games which mean something. So went out to Forest Green, got those games in. Eventually I went back to Millwall, but I was coming towards the end of the season. And my agent at the time had a meet with Mark McGee. And Mark McGee said, yeah, no, I'm going to sort his contract out at the end of the season. I've heard that he's done really well on loan. People have been raving about it. That's fine. But I'm going to sort it out at the end of the season. So I said, okay, I'll wait. So we get to May now. Millwall just got promotion to League One, which is now the Championship. So I went upstairs and said, okay, what's happening with Leon's contract? We just got promotion, can't do it. So I'm thinking, hold on a minute. So you've told me that you're going to swear it into the season, and now nothing's been done. Yeah, things changed. So you got to remember, James, it's the end of the season now. So I'm in limbo. There's nowhere to go. There's no one to contact. There's no one to come back and see me. But the problem, the saving grace was I went out on loan. So people remembered me from the games that I played. So luckily I done that. A couple of clubs contacted me when I found out that Millwall released me. So that's how I got to move to Southend.
Talk to me about Southend, your initial impressions of the club, everything that went around with your move, because no doubt you needed that move at that time. So it must have been the perfect fit for you. Talk to me about that period of your life.
Southend was the club that kickstarted my career. Millwall was the learning curve. Millwall was the time to grow some balls, grow into a man, and grow up. That was the time for that. But then Southend was a time where, okay, you've learned all that from the past, what to deal with, how to deal with a lot of crap people in your life. Now you've got to put it into practice now at Southend. So I went there, and that was 2001. That was 2001. And playing games week in, week out. Still a bit of a novice, still making silly little things because the coaching wasn't there. But after that season, it was really game on. I was always a goal scoring centre half. I'd always get goals. And I got about, what was it, 7 goals that year or something like that.
Wow.
So I was always nicking goals. But Southend was an unbelievable club for me. Played week out. I think I must have played 140 something games in succession. So that was good.
Yeah, like to play 130 games in consecutive concession after suffering such a career-threatening injury early on in your career, I bet you're thinking, wow, the surgeon's really done a good job. Everything's hitting off right for you. It must have been a great relief for yourself.
Yeah, it was. It was, because I thought I was done. When the first surgeon told me that, I thought I was done. And I think what helped my ankle was keeping it active. So in the summer, when we was off season, I had to keep the movement going. I had to keep it going because I knew it would seize up. It was that bad. It went through such a traumatic time. I had to keep the movement going in it. So playing games all the time just helped it even more. But, there was nothing. The biggest thing in my career was actually going to Forest Green to go out and play games, because if I didn't do that, if I just sat on the wall, nobody would have seen me. And that's what would have probably ended my career.
Would you say then to any young player, the best thing to do, regardless of your parent club, is to get out on loan, to get seen by people, get that experience?
100%. Go and play games. Go and learn your craft. Go and play against men who need these games to survive. That's when you really see what you're made of. If you're just sitting in the reserves or playing under 23 games, week in, week out, you're not going to learn. Go and play against a person whose life, mortgage, rent, whatever, depends on this. And let's see how you fare.
You played out your skin at Southend. Like you said, 130 consecutive games. I think you scored about 11 goals from centre half for them, which is incredible when you think about it.
Yeah.
Brilliant form for yourself. You've done enough to earn a big move. Were a lot of teams coming in for yourself at that time? Was there a lot of speculation as to what was going to go on from there?
Yeah, there was a couple of sniffs. I was doing pretty well. A couple of sniffs, and Peter Taylor knew my brother from England under 21s. So he was the manager at Hull. And he said, when's your contract up? Because I saw him somewhere. I think I saw him in London somewhere. And he obviously knew my brother, he knew me. So he said, contract up at Southend. I said, it's the end of the season. I haven't renewed it yet. He goes, all right, don't sign anything then, because, Hull are on to big things. We're going to get promotion this year. And next year, we're looking to get promotion again into the Championship, because the chairman is going to invest a lot of money. And he said, all right, just hang on. I thought, okay, I'll hang on. And I never heard anything. And then towards the end of the season, my agent called me and goes, Hull want you to go. So I said, oh, great, But Southend were a bit annoyed because they wanted to get some kind of money from me. But the chairman at the time didn't sign me on a new contract. I felt I deserved more than he was offering. So I hung out. I didn't sign. So, you do the usual, you get a bit of booing from the fans because, sign or go, sign or go, sign or go. But I weren't going to sign anything. So I didn't sign, went to Hull, and that was it.
First impressions of Hull, going there as a big signing that Peter Taylor wanted. Talk to me about that experience of your life.
It was it was a move that I had to do. I had to do to propel myself again. So I had to do that. Obviously, moving from London to Yorkshire is a totally life, but for all sorts of reasons. But it was a move that had to be done. Season started. Oh God, I seem to have problems every time the season starts. I went on holiday with my boys to what was it? Somewhere in Greece or something. we had a few drinks, etc., etc. We were doing a shooting goalkeeping game at 2:00 in the morning against some guy. If you score, you get a bottle of champagne. I was drunk out of my head. I took a shot, totally missed the ball, and scraped my foot on the floor and broke three toes. So I went to Hull, and I told them, oh, I was training on holiday and I tripped over a rock. So I went to Hull and I missed the first 5 games of the season. So I got back fit, and then I started playing again. Wasn't playing great, actually. I wasn't playing great. I missed a bit of pre-season. After that, when I got my first goal against Peterborough, it was literally game on from there.
You guys won promotion in your first season from League One into the Championship.
Yeah. We had an unbelievable squad. We was getting 11 to 17,000 in that league at that time, when most teams were getting 5. So it was a club. They were definitely doing things with some huge investment from the chairman as well. So we was always going one way. We had to get promotion. Anything less than that wouldn't have been acceptable.
Do you remember playing against your brother when he was at Wolves and you played for Hull?
Yeah. 2005. That was. Do you know what? It's funny enough. I was talking to about it the other day, and he still tries to rub it in, because what happened was, right, he weren't getting a sniff, James. I'm telling you, he wasn't getting a sniff in that game. But then what happened was, Paul Ince headed the ball out, and at the edge of the box, I volleyed it into the top corner, absolutely buzzing. So that made it 2-2. And then about 3 minutes from the end, not even 3 minutes, literally last kick of the game, I think Mark Kennedy or someone whipped a ball in, and Carl spun off around the back and volleyed it in. But he didn't spin off around me. It weren't me he spun off from. He spun off from the other defender, right? He spun off around the back and volleyed it in, and went absolutely ballistic, crazy celebrations. But I just couldn't believe it. He won it 3-2.
That day though must have been a huge realization for yourself, how far you've come as a professional, as a man, as an individual. Because like you said, early on in your career, feeling like you're in brother Carl's shadow, rightly so for his success as well in his own career. But then having that, I don't know, being on a pitch facing him, being equal to him and in your career and you're standing at that time, I'm guessing that must have been quite a big deal for yourself.
Yeah, because like you say, no two ways about it. He got moved for 7 million. I'm just little Leo, come from Millwall, come from Southend, going to Hull, working my way up the leagues. So he got his move that way. And I was in his shadow. So I had to work extremely hard to get anywhere, because I said that I wasn't the most technical player. I wasn't the most flashy player. I wasn't going to do Cruyff turns and spray it out to someone, as some centre-backs do. I knew what I was. I always knew what I was. I would pass it. I'll give it simple. I will tackle you hard. I will come through you and head it. I'll score you goals from set pieces. But I think what saved me, I enjoyed defending. I loved defending. The fact that you weren't going to get past me made me happy more than anything. So it's a different mindset now. People want to play first, defend second. Back then, you have to remember the time it was. They wanted defenders first, and then you play second. So that's what I was doing. So I had to work very, very, very hard to get the notoriety that I felt I deserved.
You had a fantastic bond with your manager, Peter Taylor, who signed Hull City. Was you quite disappointed initially when he then made the move to Crystal Palace?
Yeah, because to be fair, it's a move that he had to take. He had to take that move, and I understand why he done it. It's a move to get back down south. It's probably more money. It's a bigger club, bigger history, and I didn't know he was going to take me with him. It was only from a newspaper article that I was going to go, because there were so many players that he brought from other clubs to Hull, and I thought, oh, he's probably going to take so-and-so. I was the only one that he took. And Hull were going to get, was it 1.5 for me at the time? They were going to get 1.5. So it's good business in all areas. So it's a move that I jumped at. Back down south, Crystal Palace is literally, I live in Purley now, so Crystal Palace is 10 minutes from my house. So it was unbelievable to get back down.
I bet you must be pinching yourself a little bit as well, All your other moves then have been free Bosmans. This is kind of like a high-profile move for yourself in terms of moving back down south, big transfer fee, Crystal Palace, huge fan base. Talk to me about that period of your life.
Yeah, that's when the real pressure started to really kick in my career, because those other clubs, there was pressure at Hull, of course, but I never went for a fee. So this is the first time that I went for a fee. And we all know Simon Jordan don't like to part with money. So he bought me for 1.5. So he wanted to see something. So I thought, okay, all right, yeah, great. I'm going back down south. Absolutely buzzing with it. Went Palace, playing games, doing really well my first year. They just got relegated from the Premier League the year before, I think. So they had parachute payments and everything, paying players and all that. I got Player of the Year that year. I scored 7 goals. So I was playing with people I used to see on the TV, Clinton Morrison, Joby McAnuff, Darren Ward, Fitz Hall, all these guys. And I've come in there and done really, really well. The fans took to me straight away, loved me straight away. And I thought, this is amazing, to be back down south, playing really well at home, because I've always been at home. So I've always been at teams where it's not been my normal home. So having the chance to go play games, to go home where your base is, was unbelievable.
What did it feel like winning the 2007 Fans Player of the World for your performance? Yeah.
It was probably one of the highlights of my career. Apart from scoring a hat-trick for Southend, that was probably Stoke. That was probably one of the highlights of my career, getting promotion at Palace. Because of the size of the club, the players that were there at the time, going for the fee I did, it made things so much better for me.
The following season, following a poor start by Crystal Palace, Peter Taylor is sacked by the club. Neil Warnock comes in. Firstly, you're disappointed to see mentor Peter Taylor leave, and secondly, how did you initially get on with Warnock?
Thing is, with Peter Taylor sacking, it was coming. It was coming because the man that he was at Hull wasn't the man he was at Palace. At Hull, he had authority. Everyone respected him in a way you couldn't believe, and done whatever he wanted, and we were successful. When he went to Palace, there was too many egos. Even players that would play 1 week, and Peter Taylor might leave him out 1 week, the whole place would just be in disarray. You get certain players who just would try and upset training. I remember one training session, KUQI picked up the ball out. We were just training, doing kickball. He just picked it up and just booted it in the air and just ruined the whole set. And everyone was standing there like, what are you doing? And he was just annoyed that he was out of the team. And when Peter Taylor didn't do anything or discipline him, that's when you got the other players thinking, I can do what I want then. So then every time a senior player got left out, it was just murder. We went back to Hull that year. We went back to Hull, and it was me going back to my former club and Peter Taylor going back to his former club. So then I must have scored a 22-yarder outside the box, right? And I went off celebrating like a madman because I'm scored against my old club. And they must have scored in the last minute to equalise. So then we came back in after the game, and Peter Taylor was having a go at one of the players, and goes, you're rubbish. You're going to be sacked by Christmas anyway. You're crap. Da, 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 da. And like Peter Taylor didn't really discipline him, because for me, if a player spoke like that to me in front of the whole squad, you ain't playing for me again. I'm sorry, you have to do it. Even if he's a top player, you have to do it, because people have no respect for you. And you got to remember, I'm looking at Peter Taylor as the man he was at Hull, not the man. And when people were treating him like that at Palace, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I thought that's when the results started to just keep going down and down and down, because people just lost respect. And it wasn't deserved, because Peter Taylor is a good guy. He will look after you. You do well for him, he'll look after you. And for the players to treat him like that, it still hurts me to this day, because it was so wrong that he didn't deserve that.
Other than the KUQI situation, are there any other instances of players sort of player dismay at the club at the time that you can share with us?
Boy, apart from the one in the dressing room, it was just answering back all the time. after sessions, after games, like he would say something, what I want. Players are, yeah, but that's not how Ian Dowie done it. Ian Dowie's not here right now. It's so disrespectful. It's so, and you got players slyly going to Simon Jordan, who were quite close to him, saying, nah, he hasn't got it. He hasn't got it. Yeah, it was a lot of snakery going on. Yeah, and like I say, he weren't that guy. Not a bad guy. He was probably too nice, Pete Taylor, and that's probably what his downfall was.
On the flip side of that, when he leaves, you've got one of the managers who's known to be confrontational. He's sort of keen to sort out bad eggs, none other than Neil Warnock. What was it like?
Yeah.
What was it like when Neil Warnock first came in?
Warnock, well, when he first came in, I knew what he was about. I knew he hated me. I didn't like him. We knew that from the start because when I was at home, we had the Yorkshire derbies. Every time I go in the touchline, he would give me abuse. I would give him abuse back. When he was at Sheffield United, he played Hull, always giving me abuse through the game because I was right side centre half, so I was near the dugout every time the ball was over that side. And he would give me some, I'd give him some back. You're this, you're that, yeah, whatever. Do you know what I mean? So when I found out Pete Taylor got the sack, he came in, I knew I was gone. And I wanted to go. So he came in the first training session, he said to everyone, right, everyone get your shin pads on. We're having a five-a-side. No one's pulling out tackles. Everyone get your shin pads on. So by this time, I haven't said a word to him. I've just gone about my session. I know he doesn't. I don't like him, but I'm not saying anything. I'm keeping it professional. And then we put our shin pads on. I come running out on the pitch, and I see him looking at me from a distance. He's just staring at me. Him and Keith Cole just staring at me. And I'm running over with the rest of the boys. And he's got to this five-a-side pitch, and he's you don't look like a footballer, do you? I was like, what do you mean? Because you don't look like a footballer. You look like a 100-meter runner. I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, fair enough. He's just trying to get a rise out of me, very subtly at first, but I didn't take the bait. So we done the five-a-side, tackles flying in, etc. And I'm thinking, why don't you guys train like this when Peter Taylor was in? Warnock's come in. You don't even know him. He hasn't brought you in like Peter Taylor brought some of you guys in. Why are you training like this? Or like last week? But anyway, that was just my disappointment in Peter Taylor getting a sack, to be honest with you. So yeah, training was pretty feisty. Warnock befriended a lot of players, got Clinton Morrison on board, got all those guys on board, made them feel good about themselves, and he got results for them. But I knew that me and him were always going to fall out because there was another time. We was playing Stoke and we were doing set pieces on a Friday. And Ben Watson was whipping balls in, but it's passive because you're just practicing, right? And the ball was like coming in and I was going to attack it and Julius Baroni was coming at the same time. So we both just pulled out of it because it's a Friday. We've got the game tomorrow. We're not going to smash into each other, are we? We're teammates. So it's just passive practicing what you're going to do. Oh, stop the session. And everyone's standing there like, what? He goes, KUQI, why didn't you smash him? I'm like, why am I going to smash him when we've got a game tomorrow? He's a goalkeeper. What are you talking about? No, go through him. You're just a softie. You're just this. You're just that. That's why you're never going to play for me. So, funny enough, I'm still playing in the game tomorrow. So we play in the game against Stoke. Got beat 3-1. Didn't have the best game because my mind's all over the place. I want to get out of there. He don't want me there. My form just dipped. It just dipped because I was dealing with so much negativity from him and Keith Curl at the time. It was just horrendous. And I wasn't enjoying my football like I was last year. So it just got messy. So we lost the game 3-1. Obviously, I come in after the game. He goes, look at you. You're not a centre half. You've got no scars on your face. Your nose isn't broken. You know, broken your nose. You haven't been booked in such and such. You're not a proper centre half. So I'm sitting there thinking like, do you know what? I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here now, because some people like him, some people love him, which is fine. I haven't got a problem with that. But me and him just never saw eye to eye. So after the game, I texted my agent. I said, "Look, I need to get out. I need to get out now. It's not happening for me here." Agent said, "Leave it with me." And then, funny enough, Stoke manager who played against that day always liked me, and he wanted me to go to Stoke. So next time I came into training, I had to go to Warnock's office to sort it out. And he's still getting digs in. He goes, "Oh yeah, Stoke want to buy you for 1.5. I'm like, "Oh, great. So me and you can finally get away from each other." I'm like, "Yeah, great. And then he goes, "Have you heard how much they want to pay you?" I'm like, "No, well, I'll find out. I've got an inkling." He goes, "I don't know how you're getting that." I mean, what's it got to do with you? You know, what's it got to do with you? So, yeah, so basically that's what happened. And he was trying to get digs in. I was leaving. I was like, "Well, whatever. I don't really care. I'm going. So you should be happy I'm going. I'm happy I'm going." "Yeah, but, they're buying you for 1.5. Wow. I'd say you're worth probably 250 maybe. All right, whatever. All right, I'm going now anyway." So, and that was the last time I saw him.
When you look back on your time with Warnock, I know you and him had history and you were enemies and that, but do you look at it now and laugh at it, or do you look at it and still think, what was the reason like for his attitude and actions and stuff?
Do you know what? I don't look back at it in anger. I look back at it, it's more disappointment that for a person who's very professional, it's not going to cause any unrest for your team. If he came and said to me, "You know what, Leon, you're not my sort of centre half. I want to move you on, but I want to do it the right way. I don't want to embarrass you or anything." I would have said, "You know what, fine, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. I'll move on and I'll go to another club." But he done it in a way where he tried to make me feel like an idiot, tried to make me feel small, tried to be in front of other people, and I wasn't having it. You're not treating me like that. So anything he would say to me, I would give it back to him, and he didn't like it. So that's where we didn't see eye to eye.
Warnock's post-match videos in particular have become something of legend. What was he like post-match in the dressing room, like consistently? Can any instance or any stories that come to mind?
Yeah, he usually comes in, goes in the shower, and lets everyone sit down, and he stands in the shower with his cup of tea for like 2 minutes, and then he comes out, and he just goes ballistic on whoever he's going at. He starts in his Yorkshire accent, starts ripping people and stuff. That's his way. He's an old school. He's a dinosaur, and that's where that's how he manages. That's what he does. Yeah.
Any confrontations other than confrontations with yourself that you remember from Warnock and your time with the players and stuff?
Well, confrontations with me and Warnock.
No, with other people involving Warnock.
To be fair, he had to get a lot of people on board with him at the time. He would still have a go at people, but there wasn't many conversations he had with people. Because he needed people to pick up results for him. Even if the players that he didn't really like, he still had to befriend them and fake pretend that it was in his plans. But with me, there was no pretending. It's like, I hate you, I want you gone, and he knew that I hated him. So we were never going to work. But he knew that I got Player of the Year last year, and so he knew that I had to. He could get some money for me right now instead of waiting.
Like you mentioned, your last game for Crystal Palace was against Stoke. You must have done enough to impress the Stoke manager to then lay out £1.5 million for you. You then hit the ground running again at Stoke, going on a goal scoring run. Were they playing you up front for a little while that season? Where did all them goals come from?
No, Tony Pullis, he's just a master at set pieces. He knew me probably better than I knew myself at the time. He knew exactly what I needed on set pieces. The amount of goals that were scored there, the amount of goals that were set up was pretty phenomenal at that time, because he's just a master at set pieces. That's what he lives for with Pullis. His training sessions are the most boring sessions you will ever be involved in your life. And if you're a striker, playing at Stoke is very hard under Pullis, because he wants you to drop back in certain positions and go over here and go. When strikers just want to score goals. That's what you hear about if you look at YouTube with videos of Michael Owen talking about his time at Stoke, saying it's the worst time of his life, because he's just You don't train. You don't train. All you do is pattern a play, you shape, and then you're either running or you're going in. And you will get people like Ricardo Fuller saying, I want to do this, I want to do, nah, in you go. Just, it was a different time, different. But if you're a defender at Stoke, the amount of protection you get in front of you from defensive midfielders and people having to track back is unbelievable. But any other position, you're not going to enjoy it.
Yes, I think that's a really interesting point. If you look at Stoke from a defensive point of view, from where you was, like you say, brilliant. But if you're trying to lead the line and being judged by goals, not so. Yeah. What was your first impressions of Tony Pullis then? Talk to me about Tony as a man.
You know what? He is a good guy. A lot of people don't really understand him. He's very sergeant, if you know what I mean. He's very hard, but you do well. I'm not saying he'll look after you, but you'll play. You'll get ahead. You'll push on, but he's very, very hard. He's a very, very hard guy. You get him one-on-one, he's actually all right. I think it's obviously when people are around, he's got to put a different face on. He's very old school. I remember I must have done my calf or something. I done my calf in a game, and I was out. Physio said he's got to be out for 2 weeks, gaffer. So then I come the next day and he goes, I've got a message saying the gaffer wants to see you upstairs. And I thought, okay, all right, okay. Goes, sit down, Corty. So I sat down. He goes, what's wrong with your calf? I said, oh no, it's ripped. It's ripped. I can't even sprint off it. He goes, oh okay. You can't sprint off a calf. You can't sprint off a ripped calf. I was like, he goes, you know the Romans used to sleep in dead horses to keep warm, but you're telling me you can't go out there with a ripped calf? I'm like, that's not the same thing, is it? Like, come on, like, what are you talking about? So I said, so the funny thing, he eventually got me out to play. So I did actually go out and play with the ripped calf, and I scored. And then it went even worse because I had to jump and head it. When I jumped and head it, it ripped a bit more. So I said, I just put my hand up and said, no, I'm coming off. So we actually drew the game against Blackpool 1-1. And I was out for about 3-4 weeks after that.
First season, you guys won promotion to the Premier League. Massive achievement, massive thing. And I think you scored 8 or 9 goals that season to contribute to the team doing that. What was that feeling like to know that you're going to the Premier League?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing because we didn't expect to get promotion that year. It was probably around top 8, between 6 and 8. That's where we expected to get. But we just kept winning games. We was all roughly there was a lot of 6-footers in that team. Typical Pullis team. A lot of 6-footers just smashing in set pieces. We had Liam Lawrence just whipping free kicks in the top corner, putting unbelievable balls in the box. Me and John Parkin and Siddiqui and Ryan Shawcross heading them in. You had Ricardo Fuller just scoring goals out of nowhere. We just kept winning. We just wouldn't stop winning. Or obviously drawing the odd game. But we was on a roll. And once you get on a roll in the Championship, you're laughing because it's such a difficult league to get out of. And when we done that, it was just no stopping us. And we ended up coming second to West Brom.
As much as the players disliked the training sessions, as much as they disliked the pattern play and the emphasis on set pieces, when you're winning and it's working, the people start buying into it a lot more. The people sort of like, like, this is actually the way we're gonna play. We're gonna actually get involved with it.
Yeah, do you know what? When you're winning, you don't give a damn because you're winning. You hit the nail on the head. When you're winning, you don't care. But the problem you've got, and I think that's what Pullis had at West Brom and Middlesbrough, when it goes against you and you keep doing those sessions, it becomes unbearable. And that's when the fans start getting on your back. And that's when the players just fall out. It becomes horrendous very, very quickly.
Talk to me about the celebrations when you found out that you guys were going to be in the Premier League. Was there a big party? Did Pullis sort of get really excited, and was everyone, the whole city, involved?
Yeah, the whole city was. Pullis done his own thing away from us. He's not really a guy to get involved with the players. But we done our own thing. That night was just probably one of the best nights ever. Went into Manchester. We just went crazy. It's one of those things where you have to just go crazy, let your hair down, because they're going to come probably once a year, if never. So we just went out and enjoyed ourselves, just had an amazing time. Yeah, unbelievable.
Once all the hype of everything settles down and you guys are then thinking about the next season, is it a worry for some of the players that have maybe coming toward the end of their career, or maybe have found themselves in the team, won a position, hold a shirt? Is it a worry that the manager may now be looking at bringing in big money buyers and big imports and players on big wages to try and push forward in the Premier League?
Definitely, and you have to, player like myself, I had to kind of understand that. We played Aston Villa, so it was great to play Aston Villa in 3-2. The players they had, Dawson, Agbon Lahore, John Crew, Ashley Young, top players, you know what I mean? So to beat them at home was unbelievable. But I always knew that Pullis, he had to strengthen. So he brought in Abdoulaye Faye from Newcastle, he brought in Ibrahim Sonko, brought in a bunch of players, brought in Robert Hoof. All these guys have got some kind of Premier League experience. Even though I've done well, and I knew that I could pack it, but he's going for ready-made experience. Like if you get a chance to get Robert Hoof, you're going to buy him because he's ready-made Premier League experience. So I had to take that on the chin. It was tough because obviously you want to play at the highest level, but I just wanted to get out. I wanted to get out or at least go on loan to a team and play, because I was at an age where I was getting 29, 30. You need to keep your body going. And with an ankle like mine, I have to keep it moving. You know, I have to keep it active. So sitting down on the bench and that weren't enjoyable. Playing under 20 weren't enjoyable. And that's when the cracks started to kick in around the squad with a lot of people as well, because results weren't what they were the year before. So when you're doing those sessions again, that's when you have little problems. Even though we survived and we done really well, it started to creep in a bit with the Arsenal fiasco with James Beattie. We got beat 2-0, and everyone's thinking, all right, you know, at least we get a chance to spend a couple of days with our families in London and York, wherever we live. So we're sitting in the dressing room in the Emirates, and the manager comes in. We got beat 2-0, and the manager comes in and goes, right, well, blah, 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 should have done this, should have done that. But anyway, it's not the worst result in the world. See you all tomorrow. And everyone's like, James Beattie goes, oh, can't believe this. Picks up his shirt, throws it on the floor. Right? But by the time James Beattie done that, Pullis has already walked in the shower. And I'm sitting next to James Beattie, right? Because he's sitting to my right. And I didn't play that game. I was on the bench. So I'm sitting there, right? And I'm thinking, oh my God, we're in tomorrow. Like, do you know what I mean? And James Beattie's fuming because he had plans. And then I looked up and I saw the assistant manager walk slowly into the shower, tell Pullis what happened. I'm thinking, you little snake. He's got to tell the gaffer what James Beattie's done. So it's quite steamy in there because already the bath's been and the shower's been going, so it's quite steamy. So James Beattie's sitting next to me with his knees on his hand, his elbows on his knees, like punched over, fuming, and everyone's not happy. And I see this figure marching towards where we are. And it's a naked figure. It's a naked figure. And he's just marching towards and he threw a towel on the floor, thinking, it's Pullis walking towards us. I'm thinking, I didn't do anything. What's he coming to me for? And he's come straight towards Beats. And then Beats has stood up. And then Pullis is like, headbutted him. And James Beattie's like moved, gave him a right crack, right, with his right hand. And then it was just mental. And then everyone broke it up. But I've never seen anything like that with a manager and a player like that in my life. I look back, it's one of the funniest things I've seen.
So Pullis is stark naked, and he's just literally putting a nut on Beattie, yeah.
Stark naked, maggots swinging everywhere, right? Like it was unbelievable. Because Pullis gets really hyped after a game. If you win, lose, or whatever, he's pretty aerated. And we were all fuming because we did deserve those couple of days because we did work very hard, and he did guarantee. So people's family have already come down wherever they live, you know, to come to the game and stuff, expecting to spend the weekend in London. And Pullis, I think he knew what he was doing. He scuppered everyone's plans on purpose. So that's why everyone was fuming.
What was the resolution with him and James Beattie? Did they meet later and have a heart to heart, or did they carry on with their sort of hate relationship?
I think after that, I think it was only going one way, because obviously Beats is contracted, so he has to play out his time a little bit, because the fact he was a fan's favourite, etc., done really well. But I think that after that, it was only a matter of time before the manager was going to move him on, because the training ground was full of press. The press was everywhere at the training ground the next on the Monday. And we knew that was always going to be the case, because they were looking for a story. And I think the manager wanted to move him on after that.
Did the story get leaked quite quickly to the press then, with what happened between Pullis and Beattie?
Not the ins and outs, what happened. Just there was a bit of a ruckus, but not the ins and outs and what happened. It wasn't like that. I was quite surprised, but someone eventually in the dressing room actually told the press what happened.
Interesting. I'm just picturing Pullis standing there, naked, going at Beattie, and Beattie baffled, having to sort of fend him off.
Mate, he's a character. He is a character. He's hard work, Pullis. He's hard work, but he is a character. He's got some classic one-liners like.
What happened after that regarding yourself and your time at Stoke?
Well, Newcastle Championship at the time, and they were just on the verge of pretty much going to get promotion. They must have been 10, 15 points clear. And Chris Hughton was interested for me to go to Newcastle, but Burnley was already in the Premier League, and I was living in Crewe, and Burnley obviously near Manchester. So I thought, they want to buy you now. Newcastle they want you on loan for me. Yeah, you do. Then, and I thought I'd rather go to a team that want to buy you at my age, especially now, because I don't want Newcastle to turn around and say, "Oh, yeah, you done all right, but we can't sign you." So I went to Burnley, and that was probably the worst move I've ever had.
Really? That's the thing. When you look at it on paper, you think you're returning back to the Premier League, £1.5 billion in transfer fees. So they're keen to get you at the club. 3.5-year deal as well, which I'm guessing is always a good thing for a professional player. What?
Yeah.
Where did it go wrong initially? How do you break it down?
The longevity of the contract for someone my age was brilliant. I couldn't argue with that. I've got an unbelievable long contract at 30 odd. So that was great. What the problem was is that I've been at Stoke for that long, not playing, fitness deteriorating, right? Playing under 23 games, just not really putting a shift in, not really getting out of second gear, not getting any games. Okay, I've gone to a team which have just lost their 10 games on the spin, right? Next game's at Old Trafford, right? Against, you got to remember the squad they had at that time as well, the Berbatovs, the Rooneys, the Ronaldo, all those guys, right? So we just lost 10 games on the spin before I got there. It was already on a downer. The managers obviously, Owen Quo's obviously left. They put in Brian Laws, right? And it was all over the shop. There was no organisation. There was none of that. It was just a mess. I mean, my fitness was shot because I'm going into a team which is already on the downer in the toughest league in the world against these world-class players. It was majorly tough. I mean, for me to compete at that level with who I am, I need to be at my peak. I can't go in any games 60%. I'm not that good. I need to be a lot higher than that. And I never really had the opportunity. And when you're losing games week in, week out, your confidence just keeps, no matter what it is, your confidence just keeps going down and down and down. Yeah, you're playing in the Premier League, but you're not enjoying it, because if you've got any pride, you don't want to get beat. You couldn't watch Match of the Day because Alan Hansen is just ripping you. So you just end up going to these games. Oh yeah, you've got to try and compete, but then you do well for the first 25 minutes, and then all of a sudden, bam, it's a goal, because either some lack of organisation or something. And that was what our downfall was. Brian Laws struggled big time.
Must be hard, to deal with that when you're then from so high to then being moved around in the city. How did you refocus yourself at that time with your career?
You welcome the new challenge. I welcomed the new challenge at Burnley. I knew it would be extremely hard to keep that team as it was at the time in the Premier League. You've got no choice but to focus. You've got no choice but to knuckle down and try and get it right. There's only so much that are out of your hands. Of course, there's things I could have done better time. Of course there is. It's not all everybody else's fault, but there were things for a team like Burnley, you need to have things in place for you to do well. We had a training ground where we had to get changed. We're in the Premier League at this time. We had to get changed at the stadium and get in our cars and drive round down to a pitch. We had one pitch we were using for the whole season. By the time you reach Christmas, that pitch has got no grass. So we're just training on mud, right? You know, it's just, they never really invested in much into the squad, Burnley. They tried to do it on the cheap, you know. That was one of the, compared to what Stoke done. That was one of the things they did. So there was a lot of things that they didn't do right. And even the manager, Brian Laws, was trying to make everyone his friend. You know, he wasn't, you know, we were doing five-a-sides for ages on a Friday. And we've got Chelsea tomorrow. And I said to one time, I said, look, I need to stop now. I want to save my legs because I'm going to be doing a lot of running tomorrow because we're not going to have the ball. We're not going to have the ball against Chelsea tomorrow. We're going to do a lot of defending. Oh, no, we're doing a five-a-side and just having fun on a Friday. And I'm thinking, so we're not going to practice no proper set pieces. We're not going to work on shape a little bit on a Friday so we know what we're doing. Because Lampard's just going to find holes in the team like all the time. You know, so, but no, there's none of that. There was none of that. It was just compared to the Stoke organisation, it was just chalk.
Is it depressing when your team or a team that you're associated with is relegated from the Premier League? Is that a depressing time as a player, or do you just try to kind of black it out? How did you deal with it?
It's horrendous because you don't want that on your CV. But on the same hand, you have to accept it because you're part of the squad. But what I started to realise is the Burnley fans had their favourites from the start. Those players at Burnley, there wasn't much investment into them. So that team that was in the Premier League, they got Burnley promoted into the Premier League from the Championship the year before. So they were already fan favourites. So me coming in, I was kind of like a scapegoat in a lot of ways. Even though we was always going down. We was always going down. I knew that. There might have been a little fight, but when I saw it when we walked in there, never going to survive. We never had enough. We weren't good enough. And that's the bottom line. But when you do that, you have to find a scapegoat. I went there for about a year. Yeah, I went there for about a year. Just under, no. Yeah. I came back January. I was there about January throughout the rest of the season in the Premier League. Never done one press conference. But as soon as we got relegated that day against Liverpool, they want you to do a press conference about the relegation. So I went in there and they started to ask me sly questions like, you know, do you think your contribution helped? And don't just put it on me. There's a lot of things that went wrong that year as to why we didn't do well and why we didn't survive. So what they were trying to do, they're trying to find little scapegoats, but I guess that's what teams do.
Do you think a lot of it had to do with the training facilities, like you mentioned, toward the back end of the season, to the lack of preparation for match day preparation, in your opinion?
Yeah, I do. I think that's a lot to do with it. I think there was a lot of people who were still stuck on Owen Coyle. They couldn't get over Owen Coyle going. There were players going to the chairman behind the manager's back, talking to the chairman, saying they don't think Brian Laws is good enough. There was a lot of things. That one training pitch that we had, it was just mud. There was no grass. You had to get changed at the ground in your muddy kit. So after training, you're jumping back in your car in sweaty kit, and going back to the ground to get changed. It was compared to what they got now, it's completely different. You know, Sean Dyche has totally changed the squad, totally done loads of things, proper training ground, put the investment in, and they're thriving. But at the time, they tried to do it on the cheap, and that's why they failed.
When they went down, like you mentioned, the few players that they had brought in on bigger wages, did you see a lot of them guys leaving the club? And are you then yourself thinking about your own contract and thinking about maybe having to get off the wage bill as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, obviously, I was on a 3-year deal and I wasn't going to get nothing. So I went to Charlton on loan, and they were still paying my wages as they had to do. So they were trying to get players off the wage bill. They had to, even though they still had the parachute payments, they still had to try and take down the wage. There was, we had Steve Fletcher as well, was on a lot of money. Chris Eagles was on a lot of money. So these players had to eventually either get promoted straight away or had to go. So that's what naturally happens. But it really boils down to because they tried to do it cheap. I'm not saying they had to throw everything in the Premier League and make themselves back or go into liquidation. I'm not saying that, but they had to invest a bit more into the squad, into the facilities for us to survive. So they have to look at themselves a little bit.
Who was the manager of Charlton when you signed?
Chris Powell.
Chris Powell. How did you initially get on with Chris Powell?
Well, I knew Chris Powell from years before because in the early area, he lived around the corner from me. So I used to see him. Our kids used to go to the same school. So when I was at Burnley and Stoke, he was at Leicester. We used to talk about such and such and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, then he eventually got the job at Charlton. And when he knew my situation at Burnley, that's when he said to me, yeah, do you want to, come down here? We're looking to get promotion. We're on to big things. We're getting the club back. We're trying to, because the fans are really happy. Yeah, come down and get some games. And I jumped at the chance because it's another chance to move back down south. And I took it.
He wasn't joking either. He guided the club to the Football League One Division Championship. It's a fantastic achievement. What do you remember about that season?
It was just unbelievably easy. It was just easy. The players he got in complemented each other. There was a unity. There was no egos. The same as Stoke. There was no egos. It's probably done so well. There was no egos at Charlton. Everywhere there was a big family orientated situation going on there. That's why we done really well. But yeah, everyone loved Chris Powell. Everyone wanted to work for him. The sessions were good. He gave good days off. It was just great. It was just great. And I think the fans would agree at that time. I know it's gone a totally different way now, but it was really good.
When your loan spell finished at Charlton, would you have then had to go back? Would you have had to go back and then try to sort things out? Or did Charlton try to sign you straight away?
Yeah, no, because it worked out quite well, but the contract was running out anyway. Stayed on loan for that time. Because I went on loan when I had another year left on my Burnley. So then, as soon as I spent that year at Charlton, my time at Burnley was finished. Yeah. So I just went to Charlton on the free.
Was that your first option to stay with Charlton? You enjoyed your loan spell and you thought the club was in a good place going forward?
Yeah, no, I didn't want to go anywhere else because I was back in London. My career was winding down. I was touching 33 at the time. I didn't want to go anywhere else. There's no way I would have gone to another team up north. I had to stay down south now. My family was settled. So it was Charlton. And Charlton was a great club. Good manager, good players. I wasn't going anywhere else.
How much did you enjoy playing in the Championship at that stage of your career? Bearing in mind now you're getting into the later stages, you've had experience in top flight division as well as some of the lower divisions in Football League. How are you now handling that Championship level?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. Obviously, you have to be a bit smarter because you're getting older now. So you're coming up against quicker guys. So you have to just use your brain a bit more. But no, I didn't find it hard. I enjoyed it. The amount of experience that I've got, it wasn't a problem. It was pretty normal. It was played against guys that I knew, played against guys I played against for years. No, it was a great way to kind of wind down your career.
Was it through injury or through lack of opportunity at this stage that you decided to retire? Because I was right in thinking that there might have been one last throw at the dice at Southend. Was that rumour true, or was that something that the papers were speaking about?
Yeah, no, it's true. It was true because obviously when they released loads of guys at Charlton, I was thinking, do I really want to do another year? I'm not sure. Someone said to me, if you can do another year, just do it. Football, just do it. So I spoke to Phil Brown. He said, come down to Southend. You started your career here. Wouldn't it be nice to end it here? So I said, all right, I'll come down, I'll train. Came down and trained for a day. No, came down and trained for one day, played one game on a Sunday, pre-season, and the ball got played over the top, and I was sprinting down the side, and I think this kid just went past me like I weren't there, and I just knew that, nah, I'm done. I'm done because I know that I'm not, no disrespect, that guy wouldn't be able to do that to me 5 years before that, you know? And I just felt there's a time where you have to call it. So I went into the training ground on Monday, and the players are sitting there, and I said to the guy next to me, when's our next day off? And it's only Monday, and I'm asking when's the next. I didn't want to be there. I had enough. When you're asking when's your next day off and you've gone to a new club, your mind's not in it. I couldn't wait for a day off. I just wanted to get away from football. I've been doing it for so long. I had enough. It just became like a normal job, and the politics of it just became too much. And I just felt, nah, I'm gonna call it a day now.
I think it's quite a brave thing to do. Bearing in mind, footballers have such a limited earning capacity, maybe 15 to 20 good seasons if you're really fortunate. So then time on your own playing career when you're in a position to keep earning financially, I think it's quite a brave decision, to be honest. A quite admirable thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to go there and embarrass myself. I didn't want to con anyone into thinking I could do a job when my knee was swelling up a bit as well at that time. I had a couple of operations at Charlton. My knee was playing up a bit. I just thought, don't go and embarrass yourself. You're not the player that you once were. Your body's not the same. You know, your body's gone through a lot of trauma from 18, you know, your ankles and all that stuff, to 34. You're lucky you lasted that long. Don't overdo it. Make yourself a cripple. So when your kids are 10, you can't run around with them. You know, so I had to make sure I'd done the right thing.
How do you, when you've done with football, how do you then pack that memory, that experience and everything that you've done into a box and then restart something fresh? I always find that quite an interesting challenge for anyone. But how did you handle that?
Not that hard, because obviously finding something to do that you really like afterwards is hard to compare. You're never going to find that comparison. You're never really going to find something which pays you the same as football. So I always knew from 21 that it's a short career, do the best you can, and then it's going to end very quickly. So do the best you can in it while you can. So when the time came, I wasn't upset. I was a bit relieved to leave the game, because the amount of politics I got involved in the game, and I just had enough of it. I just had enough. It just became like a normal job to me. I wanted to experience some things. That time of my life was over, and I was happy for it to be over, because I was done with it. And but when you do it every day, apart from Sunday and a Wednesday, but then you're on it again. Again, you're traveling, hotels for 15, 20 years. Like, come on, like there's more to life for me. There's more to life. So I had to just pack it in, yeah.
Now, being quite from a football dynasty yourself, you and your brother have had fantastic footballing careers. You've both gone on your own journeys, your own different legacies and paths, but you no doubt have achieved fantastic stuff in the game. We've now seen another brother of yours in Ruben Loftus-Cheek making his own way in the professional game. Could you speak to me a little bit about his development?
Yeah, he's doing unbelievably well. I know he's recently had the Achilles injury, which kept him on nearly a year. He's just coming back now. He's a top player. He just needs to play some games, get a lot of consistency into his game, and he will fly. He will fly. He's got the power. He's got the size. He's got the ability, the technical ability to score goals. No, he can go a long way. Just obviously with his current situation in lockdown and his injuries held him back a little bit. But no, I'm really proud. Football's really in my family, and it's really proud moment.
Chelsea in particular, there's so many great young players emerging at once. Do you feel he could be part of a big era for the club, and it could be something that life-changing for Chelsea in terms of the youth coming through and the amount of players that they have?
Yeah, it can be. I just hope they get the chance. You look at the Gilmores, you look at the Doys and the Loftus-Cheeks. You just hope they get a proper chance. I hope they don't just out to somebody else and to get their football done. There's no reason why those guys can't be successes at Chelsea. The problem you've got is that teams want clubs like Chelsea can have ready-made success. That's why they go and spend money. And it's also to keep the fans happy by making big name signings. So it's all well and good having it come through. But the funny thing is now, I feel that the fans would like to see those guys come through. I think the fans would like to see the Gilmours and the Doys and the Loftus-Cheeks play on a regular basis. I think they get more satisfaction out of seeing those guys succeed than some guy coming over from abroad for 2 years, earns big money, and maybe do okay, but not those guys can do.
Do you feel those players as well have more love for the club? Having spent so long coming through a youth system, to be a part of it, to see how the club runs from top to bottom, the understanding of the club from them players must be a lot higher than someone who'd been brought in from another country or etc.
Sure, definitely. I mean, you've grown up training with Lampard, you've grown up seeing those guys, seeing how it's done, seeing the passion those guys wore the shirt with. It's going to naturally pass on to you. It's just another ripple effect. So, but when you've got no disrespect to anyone else coming in, that's how football works. But they're not going to have that same love for the club as those guys will have. In some cases, football now, you get a lot of mercenaries. You got look at the Man United situation with Di Maria and Sanchez, just mercenaries earning their 300, 500 grand a week. Next minute, in Milan, and one's gone to PSG. So it's better for the club in general to have those guys, if you're lucky to have those guys, come through the club. If you look at Greenwood, Man United, same with him. You know, the fans would love to see him play. That's like a new signing for them. You could get another player from somewhere else who won't do as good as him. So it's more satisfying to have a homegrown player.
You're one of 3 brothers who have played in the Premier League, which I think is quite a unique thing. Is there one or more common attribute that you and your brothers share that you think's made you or helped you guys become successful in the players that you've been?
Just grounded. We're all grounded. Carl, myself, we're just grounded people. We're just very, very laid back. There's not one bit of hype in us, really. We're not about that. You know, of course we enjoy ourselves, etc. But we're just grounded people. Just want to learn, play our game, go home. Just not in the hype. We just like to learn. That's why we're successful.
Have you ever been interested in management side of the game? And is that something you feel that you could enter in some sort of capacity in the future?
I don't want to go into the coaching side and that side. The simple reason because I don't like the insecurity. It's too insecure for me. I mean, when you've been playing football for years at a certain level, and you know you need to get this contract, you need to get that contract, etc., to keep your life going in the way you want it to go. When you go into management, you could say, okay, yeah, we've got this club. I manage this club now, or I'm coaching this club. Manager gets the sack, brings in his own people. You're looking for another job again. It's not the life. I want more stability now, and that's why I work for the company that used to manage me, Stella. So I work with David Manassi and Jonathan Barnett, and I really enjoy it. I mean, I work in France. Obviously, with COVID, I can't travel at the moment, but the games. But I work in France. I'm always up there, you know, doing meetings, scouting players, meeting families, getting the company. So I really enjoy that side of it more than if the manager gets the sack, am I going to have a job next week? I can't live like that. Some people like it, some people, but it's not for me.
So are you basically identifying talent in foreign countries now? Are you looking for new clients for your boss to represent, for the company to then produce? Yeah. Fantastic.
That's right. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Anyone?
Yeah, no,
anyone you found that we should know about? Anyone on the radar just yet?
Yeah, no, there's a few lads. I mean, there's mainly younger lads that coming through at PSG and places that will blow up. But we've got some good young lads at Stella throughout the country. We've got loads of players in Premier League, throughout top clubs. We're doing unbelievably well. It's a really, really respected company, organisation. You know, I was there for 15 years. So no, it's good. It's good to be working there.
If you could change any one thing about your professional career, whether that be a decision or an option or a choice or something that you've made, what would that decision be?
It would be work on my weaknesses more. I didn't work on my weaknesses enough. My left foot didn't work on that. No, I mean, I was reading Kobe Bryant's, I think it's some article, and listening to an interview he had on YouTube. The guy never stopped working, even when he was top of the NBA, millionaire. He was still up early hours in the morning, practicing his left-hand free throw. You know, in his pajamas, just throwing it into a hoop with his left hand, just practicing. He never stopped trying to get perfection. I'm not saying I'll be waking up 4 o'clock in the morning to go and train on my own, but there's loads of things that players can do after training, which can work on your weaknesses. I worked on my heading after training all the time. All the time I worked on my heading. That's probably why I got so many goals, because I kept working on it. I should have worked on my passing more after training. I should have worked on my left foot more after training. So there's little things where you look back on and you think, why were you jumping in your car at 1 o'clock to go home to do what? You know, I could have been at the training ground working.
I really admire your journey. I really do, because to have a successful sibling in any walk of life is somewhat hard to deal with, especially when you're making your own way in that same industry. And I think the way you've conducted yourself and handled yourself and then worked to get yourself to the level that you've got to is a fantastic testament to a young man's dream, work ethic, and everything that goes along with that. So I think you should be applauded for that. And I think it's been a very interesting journey.
Yeah, it has. I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed even though, you know, I look back on the bad times, especially early in the Millwall career, it made me into a man very early. And I have to look back and take it as a positive, because if I was mollycoddled at Millwall, I went to the end, I may not have done as well. So having someone on my back like that early on, it made me into the man I am today. And you know, there's not much that can really faze me in that respect. Because life is a journey. You just have to take the rough with the smooth, and that's what football has been. And it's been not an easy ride at all. To rise through the leagues from Conference, League 2, League 1, Championship, and to play in the Premiership is like, you know, boys, it's an unbelievable journey. So I'm happy with that myself.
Power to yourself. Power to yourself. I just want to thank you ever so much for sharing your story with me today. It's been a great pleasure to get you on Full Court Football 24, mate.
No, it's been a pleasure, man. I had to give Tess a little call to tell me to give you a call, because I saw your stuff on YouTube. It's really, really good, man. You should keep it up. It's really, really good.
I really appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to Tez Faye for getting you on the channel. That's really nice of him to bring you in. I really appreciate it, mate.
No, you're welcome. Anytime, man. Anytime. Appreciate that.
I look forward to catching you up again in the future. And like I say, thank you ever so much for giving me your time today. Leon, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'll catch you again soon.
Top man, mate. Take care.
You too, mate.